standards. So we have these different layers of our quality assurance at the laboratory, and we also have own set of standards on how we implement all these different governing bodies and their standards.
Okay. And does the lab engage, I guess, in direct oversight and peer review of analysts?
We do. So we have this quality assurance program. Part of that quality assurance program is that all of our reports undergo a technical and administrative review. That means that when I write a report, a second qualified analyst that has the same qualifications and training as me will review all aspects of what I've done at the laboratory. They will make sure that I'm following all the protocols. So every report that's issued to the Law&Crime Detection Laboratory undergoes this technical review. And then an administrative review is administrative in nature. It looks to make sure that you have all the pages appropriate, make sure that the evidence is returned. And so these 2 rounds of review really ensure that we are reporting out appropriate results.
Okay. And have you been qualified as an expert in the field of forensic biology?
I have.
Okay, I'd move at this point to qualify Dr. Matthews as an expert in the field of forensic biology.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
She's so qualified.
So I want to talk a little bit about the lab procedures in general for DNA testing, and then we'll talk about the work that you did in this specific case. So in general, when an item comes into the lab and it's marked for DNA and other things, say latent prints or ballistics, what's the order of operations for the lab?
So at the laboratory, it's important that we don't impact other forensic science work. So to not impact other forensic science work, DNA is special and gets to go first. As you may be aware, all of our forensic scientists are humans, and therefore they have the potential to have DNA on their bodies. So we have to keep all DNA evidence very sterile to prevent any potential contamination. Because of this, DNA sampling is always performed prior to any other latent print examination or firearms examination or chemistry. So DNA does occur first, and then if an item is going to proceed through the laboratory, it will then proceed through other sections of the laboratory.
Okay. Now, if you're looking for blood on an item, is there a process that will happen before you start doing DNA testing?
There is. It's called DNA screening or biological screening. So the job of the DNA analyst is first to identify potential biological material. There's different ways we do this. During biological screening, our job is to use both visual cues, different microscopes and light sources to identify areas on an object that may have biological material. So that's during biological screening. We might use special flashlights or different types of lights as well as microscopes to identify is there any potential biological material left on an object. Blood, for example, has a red-brown appearance, so we might be looking for any potential red-brown appearance on an object.
Okay. And did you do that with a number of items in this case?
I did, yes.
Okay. Were you submitted, let me just count really quick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 14 potential items to test?
Can I refer to my report?
If it'll refresh your recollection.
My report will list all items that I processed during my report. Yes, there are 14 items that were submitted for analysis.
Okay, and then were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, did 7 of them go through pre-screening, if you will, or biological screening?
I'm going to refer to my report again. 1, 2, 7 of them did undergo what we call biological screening, where I would have been looking for potential staining. Additional items had presumptive testing performed on them, but they were received as swabs, which meant they came in as long cotton swabs.
Okay. So let's start with the actual physical evidence that you looked at and did biological screening on. The first being a case for a Glock handgun. What screening did you do on that?
So I received a Glock case. It's like a plastic case. And I first looked for any potential staining on that object. I used both my own vision as well as using a microscope and identified some areas that had potential staining Those were then tested for presumptive testing for blood.
Okay, and when you say presumptive testing for blood, is that a chemical test?
So presumptive testing at the laboratory, we use a test called Kastle-Meyer. This is a quick chemical reaction in which we can take a little bit of the sample and we can add 2 different chemicals on it, and if there is the potential of blood, it will change color to this bright hot pink. So when we perform this testing, if we see no color change, that indicates that we can rule out the presence of blood. If we get a positive reaction where we have that color change, it means it's presumptive positive for blood. The word presumptive is going to indicate that we cannot rule out the presence of blood, but we can't say for sure that it is in fact blood. It is a presumptive test, which means that it's not specific for blood itself. So I did perform presumptive testing on that Glock case, and it was found to be chemically negative for the presence of blood, which means I could rule out the presence of blood on that item.
Okay, and we've already talked about order of operations. You're doing your testing before ballistics has come back, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so your testing happens before the police department knows which of the 2 weapons matches the bullets that were fired.
Every case is different. In this case, I believe my analysis was performed first. And so I received these items. The firearms did come into my possession, and therefore they wouldn't make their way to firearms until after I had processed them.
Okay. So did you also process a magazine and 16 cartridges with tag number 1069947?
You refer to my report? I did, yes.
Okay. On screening, did you find any blood that warranted further testing?
There was no visual cues for the presence of blood, therefore no chemical test was performed. I used the microscope and my own vision and determined there was no areas for me to test for potential blood.
Okay. Now, item 1069951 is a Sig Sauer handgun. Did you test that?
I did.
And tell the jury your results regarding that.
So that item, there were areas of potential staining. I performed that Kastle-Meyer testing and it was presumptive negative for the presence of blood. Therefore, I can rule out the presence of blood on that Sig Sauer pistol.
Okay, and I'm going to approach you, if I may, Judge.
Yes.
Can I have the exhibit walker? What is exhibit 350?
These are images from my bench notes that I take while in the laboratory.
And are those true and accurate copies of photographs that you took of that Sig Sauer handgun?
Yes.
Okay. I'd move at this point for the admission and publication of State's Exhibit 350.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
350 is admitted. You may publish.
Is 360, does that show where on the handgun you tested?
Yes, it has areas circled.
Okay, and what color are they circled in?
Pink.
And then I'm going to show you also State's Exhibit 276. What is 276?
So, I'm just looking for, 276 is a box containing item 1069951.
Okay, the same Sig Sauer handgun?
The same 6-hour handgun. You can actually even see my initials on some of the items inside.
Okay. And when we look at 360, can you point with the laser pointer there for the jury where you chemically tested for blood?
So what we're looking at this photo up here. Make sure that I have the microphone here. This photo up here, we have what I just arbitrarily called side B. We have side A and side B. And we see these areas circled with the dotted pink line. These are areas that I had a visual indication of potential blood. I then performed our Kastle-Meyer, KM for Kastle-Meyer, and found that that area was presumptive negative for the presence of blood. So I was able to rule out the presence of blood on this area of the handle.
Okay. And visually, there was nowhere else that you saw that warranted testing?
No, and so what I reported out was that I had visually tested the pistol, but that the magazine and cartridges were visually negative for the presence of blood.
Okay.
There were no areas of staining for me to test.
And you do that with a microscope?
Yes.
Okay. And then when you tested the grip, you can rule out blood?
When we do a chemical test, we can rule out the presence of blood.
Okay. And then when we talk about the other items that you tested chemically and visually, 1069951 is light from a handgun, magazine, 20 cartridges from magazine, and a cartridge from a chamber. Were those items also visually negative?
Yes, those are visually negative. That's what we're seeing here in these photos. This was the chamber cartridge that arrived in a little jewelry box. And then we see here the magazine, and then the light is attached onto that firearm. And then we have the 20 cartridges here next to the magazine.
Okay. In addition to the Sig Sauer, did you also test a Glock handgun and magazine?
I did, yes.
Okay, and what were your results on that?
I'm going to refer to my report.
That'll refresh your recollection.
So this is for item 1069955.
Okay. And what were your results with regard to the Glock?
So there was a Glock handgun and a magazine. The Glock handgun and magazine were both tested using that presumptive test, and they were found to be presumptive negative for the presence of blood. Therefore, I ruled out the presence of blood on both the magazine and the Glock handgun.
Okay.
There is also cartridges in the magazine, similar to this one here. There was cartridges within the magazine and then a chamber cartridge as well. Those were visually negative for the presence of blood, meaning there was no indication of staining for me to test.
Okay. And then finally, did you have a sample of a bottom of a mattress?
Yes, there was a swab. So again, we get these, sometimes on scene, items are collected using a swab with cotton on the end. It looks like a large Q-tip. And so I received a swab that was indicated to be from a mattress.
Okay. And what were your screening results from that?
That item was found to be presumptive positive for blood. Therefore, I was unable to rule out the presence of blood.
Okay. Now, so of all the things that you did presumptive testing on, the only positive you had was from that mattress?
That mattress.
Or screening?
But also there was organic material that was submitted that was also tested.
Okay. Oh, you did presumptive testing on that as well?
Yes, there was an item that was received, and I performed presumptive testing on that.
Of course. Tell the jury about that.
So there was an item received. It was unclear what that item really was. I reported it out as possible organic material. It was very brittle in nature. But there was staining on that item. It came from a trash can, and that was presumptive positive for the presence of blood.
Okay, and if I can approach, I'll show you what I've marked for identification as case exhibit 351. Or, I keep saying 361. What is 361?
361 is, again, images taken directly from my bench notes while I'm performing analysis in the laboratory.
I do have it as 350.
It is 351. Sorry, that was 350 and 351. I'm sorry, tell the jury again what 351 is.
Okay, so 351 is a snapshot of the images I take while processing in the laboratory.
Okay, and is that possible organic material?
Yes.
And are you noting on there there's some X's on there? What are those to denote?
In that image, there are little X's, and these are areas that I tested for that, using that Kastle-Meyer testing to determine whether blood was potentially present.
I'd move at this point for the admission and publication of 351.
No objection, Judge.
Submitted, you may publish.
Okay. And can you show the jury with your laser pointer where those X's are, where you tested?
So you're going to see little yellow X's here. This is side A, side B, and then you have a little segment here. All three of these areas were presumptive tested for blood and found to be presumptive positive for the presence of blood.
Okay. Now I want to talk just a little bit about your DNA analysis and results. Can you describe for the jury how the DNA analysis process happens?
So once a biologist has determined potential biological material, the next step is really to isolate our DNA. So DNA is a molecule that's found within your body. Your body is made up of trillions of cells, and inside that you have a copy of your DNA. Now we know about DNA because we know that it can it can influence your disease risk, it can tell you whether you have blue eyes, how tall you are, but also it's unique to you. So in forensics, we can use it as potentially identifying an individual that may have come into contact with an object or a scene. So once I've identified areas of biological material, I then will need to isolate that DNA. So the first step is to isolate and extract that DNA. DNA is nice and cozy inside those cells, and so we break open those cells using heat and chemicals, and we bring the DNA into solution. The next step, we need to know generally how much DNA is in a sample. And we do that through a process called quantification. Quantification will give us a rough estimate of how much DNA is present, how a sense of the quality of DNA, is there potential degradation in the sample, and also can tell us whether male DNA is present in a sample. Once quantification is performed, we then know if we have enough DNA to proceed forward to generate a profile. This step, the third step, is going to be amplification. Amplification is a way of looking at specific regions of the DNA. DNA is a big, large molecule. We want to know the information at 24 specific locations, and so what we do is during amplification, we make lots and lots of copies of those specific areas. These areas are known to be inherited, and they're known to be unique to an individual. So when we talk about a profile, we're talking about only these 24 areas in the genome, or in the piece of DNA. So during the third step, we make lots of copies, and the reason we make lots of copies is DNA is so small we can't really see it with a naked eye or a microscope. So we make lots of copies, and then on the fourth step, we detect it. We use a genetic analyzer, a machine that is able to visualize the DNA and gives us a printout of the information that is at those 24 locations in the DNA.
Okay. And you went through that process with a number of items, is that correct?
Yes.
I'd like to kind of take them in order. You had tag number 1069962, which was labeled as placard 30. What were your results from placard 30?
May I refer to my report?
If it'll refresh your recollection.
Placard 30 is 1069962. This came as a swab from scene. It was labeled placard 30. It was extracted, so I extracted that DNA. It had enough DNA at quantification, so I generated a profile from that sample. That sample had what we call a major contributor, major component. This is an individual that is contributing more DNA to a sample than an additional individual. So we have a major contributor in that sample, and that major component matched Saria Hildabrand. And is it Zarrius? So Zarrius Hildabrand was excluded as a possible contributor of that major component from placard 30.
And I'm going to go ahead and pass around what's previously been identified as states and introduced as States Exhibit 181. You weren't on the scene. You don't know where placard 30 was, right?
The only indication I have is in communications with law enforcement. It indicated a potential, cleaning object or vacuum or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sending it around States Exhibit 181, which is where placard 30 was located. And you said that was a match for Saria Hildabrand in the major component of that DNA sample?
The major component did match Saria Hildabrand. Therefore, she cannot be excluded as a possible contributor of the sample.
Can you put any statistical weight on that analysis?
Yes.
And what is that?
When we can perform different statistical calculations to help give us an idea of how rare an evidentiary profile might be, how common, how often we might see it in a population. So it really asks those simple questions: is how rare is a profile, and how many times we would expect to see it in a population. So when I calculate a statistic on that major component from placard 30 sample, I found it was rarer than 1 in 330 billion. So 330 billion, I know, is a really big, large number. It is roughly 1,000 times the population of the United States. So it's quite a large number. And it's actually a truncated number. So we report out our ceiling is 330 billion because it's easier to conceptualize 330 billion. And so that tells me that that profile is extremely rare. And I would not expect to see that profile from placard 30, it's rarer than 1 in 330 billion.
Okay. When the next item you tested was a grip sample from that Sig Sauer, it's tag 1069969. How did that sample come to you?
The Sig Sauer was swabbed prior to arriving at the laboratory. So the item was swabbed for potential, what we call transfer DNA. This would be DNA that someone came into contact, potential skin contact with an object. So think of when you're holding an object where you might come into contact. So the grip was swabbed, I believe, in this 6 hour. It came as a swab, and that did not have enough DNA to proceed forward. At that quantification step, it indicated that there was insufficient DNA for me to proceed forward with that extract at that time.
Is that an unusual result?
It's not unusual in the sense that sometimes samples do not have enough DNA, and we have to ensure the integrity of the evidence, so we must maintain at least half of that evidence, whether it's the physical evidence itself, so if we have a piece of a stain, we have to maintain at least half of it, or half of the extract. So when I report out that it's insufficient, it means that there's not enough in that extract for me to proceed forward with half of it. We want to preserve that other half just in case additional testing is needed.
Now, did you also test a sample from its tag number 1069975 from placard 7?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped tag 1069970, a sample from the Glock.
So again, the Glock firearm that I screened in-house was swabbed prior to arriving at the laboratory, which means areas of that transfer DNA were swabbed prior to me screening it for potential blood. That sample also had insufficient DNA for me to proceed forward to generate any profiles.
And then 1069975, a swab from placard 7. Can you tell the jury what your results from placard 7 were?
So placard 7 was, again, a swab from the scene, and it was, I'm going to refer to my report, it was inconclusive for the presence of DNA. What that means is, at quantification, there was not enough information for me to say for sure that there's DNA in that sample or not.
And just for the jury's recall, I'm going to go ahead and pass around State's Exhibit 109. It's this side, so they can see where placard 7 was taken from. So it sounds like the SIG, the Glock, and placard 7, none of those had sufficient DNA to test further. It didn't get through quantification.
Yes, there was not enough DNA for me to generate a profile.
Okay. Did you have 2 swabs from a trash can, 1347617 and 1347618?
Yes.
And what can you tell the jury about those swabs?
Both of those swabs had sufficient DNA at that quantification step, which means there was enough DNA that I could generate a profile, but no profile was generated at that time.
Why not?
When we're processing cases, we are unable to generate profiles from all samples. So at the time, I generated a first round of profiles, and I was already going to be working another object from the trash can. Okay,
and is that piece of organic material?
Yes.
Okay, and is there a difference between STR analysis and, well, your report indicates sufficient DNA for STR analysis from that trash can sample. What is STR?
STR is an acronym. It starts for short tandem repeats. When I told you about the amplification step where we're only looking at those 24 locations, we're looking at short tandem repeats at those 24 locations. Short tandem repeats are repeated elements within the DNA. So some people have only 6 repeated elements and some have 7. And so these differences between individuals allow us to identify profiles that are unique to an individual.
Okay. And it sounds like there was sufficient DNA in those trash can samples, but based on your results from the organic material, you didn't go further?
No, when I initially issued my report, I proceeded forward with that organic material first, but those samples are preserved should additional testing be needed.
Okay. So let's talk about that organic material. It's tag 1347621-1. Tell the jury what your results were relative to that piece of organic material.
So what you notice here is, as I pointed out earlier, we tested in different locations, but in purple here is the area that I sampled. So the purple box is the area that I actually sampled and extracted the DNA from. And so when I extracted the DNA, there was sufficient DNA for me to generate a profile. That profile was a single source profile that matched Saria Hildabrand. Therefore, Saria could not be excluded as a possible contributor, and it did not match Zarrius Hildabrand, so he was excluded as a possible contributor.
Okay. And can you apply the same level of statistical certainty or statistical weight to that analysis?
So that evidentiary profile from this possible organic material, I did calculate a statistic again. This profile was found to be rarer than 330 billion.
Does that cover everything you tested in this case?
I believe we didn't speak about the mattress.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Can we go back to the mattress? You said that was presumptive positive for blood. Did you complete the next DNA quantification and analysis step for that as well?
So once I knew that it was presumptive positive for blood, I then extracted the DNA from that swab. Again, it was a swab from the mattress. And that sample was found to have sufficient DNA for analysis. I generated the profile. It resulted in a single source profile, which means there's one individual in that profile. It matched Saria Hildabrand, therefore she cannot be excluded as a possible contributor. Zarrius Hildabrand was excluded as a possible contributor to that sample.
Okay, and the same 1 in 330 billion statistical weight to that analysis?
I did calculate a statistic again, and that profile from the mattress was found to be rarer than 1 in 330 billion.
Okay. So just to summarize, it sounds like you were able to do DNA analysis and found DNA that matched Saria Hildabrand at placard 30 on the mattress and at the organic material taken from the trash can?
Yes, just to clarify, it's the major component from the placard 30, but otherwise it's a single source profile from the mattress as well as from the possible organic material. And they were found to match Saria Hildabrand.
Okay. And the Sig Sauer tested chemically negative for blood?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay. I believe that's all the questions I have for you. I'll have Madam Clerk turn back up the lights and I'll collect those.
May we approach briefly?
Yes.
Good morning, Dr. Matthews.
Good morning.
My name is Lacey Chambers. I'm Mr. Hildebrand's attorney. I don't believe we've met. I just have some follow-up questions for you. I want to start with your report. you referenced your report a few times during your direct testimony with Mrs. Dunlop. When you are finished writing your report, do you send it to the law enforcement officer who requested the report?
Once it's gone through that technical review we talked about, and the administrative review, then it is released to law enforcement.
And in this case, do you recall who in law enforcement you released your report to?
I'd have to reference the report. It should be at the top. Is it okay if I reference my report? It was issued to Detective Troy Clark.
And I want to direct you to a few aspects of your report. First, I want to start with the tag number 1069-96-9, the SIG grip sample.
Is this the...
It'll be on page 2 of your report.
I'm going to refer to my report. You said
1069-96-9.
969. Oh, the SIG grip sample?
Yes.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about what your report means. Do you recall if you noted in your report to contact the analyst to discuss options for possible future testing of this sample? Is that something you recall putting in your report?
Yes.
What future possible testing could have been done?
When we include that language in the report, it means that there's not enough DNA in our half of the extract to proceed forward. The possible future testing means we would need to consume the extract to generate a profile. And since this could impact the evidence itself, we don't do that without a conversation.
And do you recall if there was ever a conversation that happened about future possible testing in this case?
I didn't see any indication in the case activities, so there was no indication that I'm aware of.
And I want to talk a little bit about what maybe future possible testing could have looked like. When you're doing DNA testing, you talked about on your direct testimony the 24 specific locations on the sample that you're looking at, correct?
We're looking at 24 locations throughout the DNA, yes.
And DNA is essentially a accumulation of the father's biological DNA with the mother's biological DNA coming together to make one. Is that correct?
You get one copy of your DNA from your father and one copy from your mother, and therefore you have essentially 2 copies of your DNA.
And are there chromosomes involved with DNA?
Yeah, so a chromosome is, when we talk about DNA strands, you think of the stereotypical double helix where you see the twirling of the helix. A chromosome is a big chunk of DNA, so it's a lot of DNA packaged into a chromosome. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So you take your long strands of DNA and you package them into chromosomes.
And how many total chromosomes are in one complete sample of DNA?
There's 23 pairs of chromosomes in a human.
And are you able to differentiate between male and female DNA simply by looking at the chromosomes?
Yes. So we can, in our analysis, we do not look specifically at the chromosomes themselves because we're not performing that type of analysis. But during that quantification step, we are looking at what is the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome, so females have an X chromosome, 2 X chromosomes, and the males have an X and a Y chromosome. So when we do our quantification step, which any sample that is extracted and has that DNA isolated, we look at whether the Y chromosome is present on a sample. So we can give some indication if there's male DNA in a sample at quantification.
Are you able to do that through YSTR testing?
YSTR testing, when we refer to YSTR testing, we're referring to, when we talk about STR testing, which is what we've talked about today, we'll look at all the DNA, throughout the DNA. YSTR analysis looks only at the Y chromosome. So it focuses only on the Y chromosome, and So it's only the Y chromosome. So you're not going to see any DNA from female contributors. It's really going to look at the Y chromosome itself.
And just to kind of break it down a little, XY equals a male DNA sample, correct?
Yes.
And then XX would equal a female DNA sample, correct? There'd be no Y.
Yes, there'd be no Y, so we would see only an X present.
And so when we see a Y chromosome, we know it's male DNA.
We know that there is male DNA present, yes.
And I want to take you back to the SIG grip sample. You indicated that quantification results do not indicate sufficient DNA for further analysis, correct?
Yes.
Please contact the reporting analyst to discuss options for possible future testing of this sample, correct?
Yes.
Could future testing, if presuming the sample was consumed, could you have looked to see if there was the presence of a Y chromosome?
I would have to look at the quantification results. The quantification results that have already been performed would indicate if there's Y chromosome present or not. So if you want me to look at the raw data, it would determine whether there's a Y chromosome present. That could impact your future testing. But it's important to understand that the sample was insufficient for any testing. It was too low for any testing when I reported it. So I'm going to refer to a document that's called our central log. This includes all the raw data as we perform our analysis. And I believe, is it the SIG grip sample and the Glock sample that you're interested in?
Tab number 1069, 969, the SIG grip sample.
Okay, so 969. So the SIG grip swab. That was given a name in the lab as Q2. Looking at that quantification results, there is indication that Y DNA is present. And so at the time of analysis, it was reported out as low DNA, given the quality metrics of that sample and the amount of DNA that we see in that sample. It has potential that that sample not only has low DNA, but there are some indications that DNA may have been broken down into smaller pieces, which could impact our ability to get a profile.
Okay. And so while there was a presence of Y, was it not sufficient to do something like YSCR testing?
I would have to look back at our protocols from 2024, but looking at it through today's lens, there's not enough Y DNA present in that sample as it stands now for me to perform analysis on half the extract. But I would have to look back at the original protocols, but it is quite low, yes.
Okay. And when we're talking about DNA, fair to say that DNA is something that's essentially almost everywhere. When you touch something, you leave DNA on it, correct?
Yes, I like to say that when you go throughout your day, you're just leaving a little piece of yourself behind as you go throughout your day. Whether you're touching something, whether you're having a conversation with someone, you might spit a little bit and leave a little bit of yourself behind. So you would anticipate that wherever you're interacting in your normal day, whether it's in your car, your home, wherever, you might leave a little bit of yourself behind.
And there's also a process called transference with DNA, where essentially, for example, if I touch this microphone and then Ms. Dunlop came and touched this microphone, there's a potential Ms. Dunlop could actually have acquired my DNA from the mere touching of something I touched, correct?
So what we're referring to now is called transfer steps, and so transfer DNA. So we say primary transfer is the initial transfer from the individual to an object, such as the microphone, for example. That's a primary transfer. Secondary transfer occurs when another object or another individual comes in contact wherever that DNA was deposited. So that's the second transfer. So if I touch this and then someone else touches it and we swab their hands, there is the possibility that a little bit of myself might be on their hands. The amount of DNA that transfers, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but yes, secondary transfer does occur of DNA.
Thank you. And I want to take you back to State's Exhibit 351.
Is that the possible organic material?
Yes.
It just says 361 up here, but yes. Yeah. Sorry, just making sure I'm on the right one here.
It should be 350.
Okay, so that one.
So I want to talk a little bit about State's Exhibit 351 and what you keep saying. You identified this as possible organic material, correct?
Yes, I refer to it as possible because I didn't perform any testing to determine what it could be. It was not recognizable in any way based on my training to determine what it was. It was very brittle in nature, and it was very fragile, but I don't actually know what material it could be, just that there was visible staining on the item, which is where I sampled.
And what you actually tested was a blood sample on the possible organic material, correct?
It was a presumptive positive sample, so it means that blood is potentially present, but I cannot say for sure that blood was present.
And to be clear, fair to say you don't know exactly what this possible organic material in Exhibit 351 is.
I have no idea what it is. I just know that when I extracted a stain from that object, that profile matched Saria Hildabrand.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I don't have any further questions.
Can you read from it?
So it sounds like when you talk about additional possible testing that could have been done on the grip swab from the Sig Sauer, that would require consuming all of the sample?
Yes.
And your protocols don't let you consume all of the sample?
No, they do not allow us to proceed forward if we need to consume the extracts.
Why not?
Because we are legally required to maintain at least half of the evidence. In science, you can imagine we do like to do repeat testing. And so we like to have the opportunity to repeat test if we need to. So therefore, we have to maintain half the original material or half the extract.
Okay. And it sounds like the quantification was so low that future testing was unlikely to be helpful anyway?
We set our quantification cutoff at where we would expect the potential to have an interpretable profile. So when it's less than that, it is unlikely you're going to obtain a full profile. It's not to say that you wouldn't obtain a profile, but that it's quite low.
Okay. And it sounds like you did have some indication that there was Y chromosome DNA in that sample?
Specifically looking at that Sig Sauer sample, we did indicate that there was TY. So that means that there was a Y chromosome present in that sample.
Indicating that what you did have showed the presence of male DNA.
It's important to caution a little bit about quantification results. Yes, it indicates that male DNA is present, but it does not indicate that only male DNA is present. But yes, it does indicate that there is the potential for male.
Okay. And it would be confounding to testing if multiple people had touched the item afterwards, potentially, between the time of the crime and your testing.
So when you have a low sample, and then you have the potential of multiple contributors, you're really fighting the sample because you have so little DNA to start with. And when you have multiple people, it can make quite difficult to be able to isolate a single individual or two individuals from a sample. Okay.
And so just to clarify the results that you were able to get, the organic material was presumptive positive for blood?
The possible organic material was presumptive positive for blood.
Okay, and that the DNA matched that of Saria Hildabrand?
Yes, the single source profile did match Saria.
Okay, and the swab from the bottom of the mattress was again presumptive positive for blood?
Yes.
And it matched Saria Hildabrand?
Yes.
Okay, and then placard 30, which the jury's seen is by that cleaning machine was, again, presumptive positive for blood?
I would need to refer to my report. There were some that we did not test.
Do you know that might not have been presumptive?
I did not test that sample.
You're correct. So, did you test it for DNA?
Yes,
And the major component of that matched Saria Hildabrand?
yes.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm told the next witness might be a little bit longer, and although we've been going for just about an hour, we're going to take a break here before we start up with the next witness. Please don't discuss the case yet. We'll have you back here shortly. ahead and bring the, we're ready for the jury?
Judge, I do have one issue that might be better to address before we bring the jury in.
Okay.
At grand jury, Detective Clark discussed why he thought the gunshot wound in this case is not consistent with suicide. Our position, for the record, is that Detective Clark is a police officer. He is not qualified to discuss the issue of, is this a homicide versus a suicide, unlike the medical examiner. The court allowed the medical examiner to do that over our objection. But I think that there are fundamental differences between a medical examiner discussing manner of death versus a police officer.
Right, and a police officer has to make some decisions as they're investigating as to how they're going to proceed forward, and one of those decisions is, does this look like a homicide or a suicide? And so he can't conclusively say one way or the other. If you try to take the stand and say, yes, I know for a certainty that this, you know, but he'll be able to testify as to his observations and what he did in response to those observations. And part of that testimony may be that my observations and my training experience, my years of being, and I'm assuming he's come across suicides in the past, he can differentiate between his experience with suicides and his experience with homicides. And so over your objection, I'm going to allow him to testify to that. If it gets to an expert level, you can renew your objection, but I'm not taking that as expert testimony. I'm taking it as an officer talking about his experience.
And for the record, we're making this objection pursuant to Stacy v. State and the due process clauses of the state and federal constitution.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, I would just note Stacy's about notice, and that testimony was in the grand jury.
Right.
Morning, Your Honor.
Good, how are you?
Good, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. Please be seated. Detective Clark, if you'd remain standing, please raise your right hand.
Yes, ma'am, I do. Morning, my name is Troy Clark, Troyclark.
And Detective, the jury, I think, has heard a lot about you throughout the case, but this is the first time they've heard from you.
Yes, ma'am.
So can I have you kind of introduce yourself and tell them how long you've been in law enforcement and what you do?
Sure. Hi, good morning. My name is Troy Clark. I'm a detective with the Anchorage Police Department. I've been a police officer for 28 years now. I started my law enforcement career in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I was a patrol officer for 3 years, and I moved up to Anchorage to get out of the heat. I have been a police officer for Anchorage Police Department for 26 years. I did 15 years on patrol, wearing a uniform, driving around a marked police car. After I did patrol, I went to the FBI, and as a police officer, I was still employed by the Anchorage Police Department, but I was assigned to a violent crime task force with the FBI. I did that for 6 years, and in June of 21, I put in for and got a homicide detective. So I've been with a homicide detective for about 5 years. Prior to law enforcement, I spent about 10 years in the military and some odd jobs here and there.
And in August of 23, when this came in, were you acting sergeant?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay, and the jury's heard a little bit, but how does the homicide unit function when a call comes in? How are tasks divvied up?
So normally this one came in during the day. We were at a training, down at the training facility. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But as acting sergeant, I get called on all call outs, whether they're homicides, missing persons, infant deaths, suspicious deaths, kidnappings. So we have quite a bit, and then they kind of get filtered through me. So in this case I got informed about a missing person case that I felt warranted me to look into personally. So I left training, and then myself and Detective Elby went and started investigating this as a missing person. But normally we all get together for homicides, as a homicide unit. We get together, we hear briefings from the patrol officers, read the patrol officers' reports, and then at that point we start divvying out the jobs, so to speak, to things that need to be done.
Okay, and did you receive the initial report in this case eventually?
Eventually I did, yes.
Okay, and what day did you get that report on?
I got it on the 8th of August, 23.
And that was a report that had been made on the evening of the 7th?
Yes.
Okay, and who was the patrol officer that took the initial report?
So Officer Zhang took the initial report of the missing person. I was contacted by Officer Freitag, who was working the front desk. On the 8th, he told me that
Justin.
Can you rephrase that?
I was informed that somebody was wanting to talk to me about the case. The missing person's mother and aunt were in town, so I responded to the station to talk to them, to the headquarters.
Okay, and is that Meredith Barney and Brittany Monson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so you went to headquarters to talk to them?
Yes, ma'am, I did. It took me about an hour to get there, so unfortunately when I did get there, after trying to locate the report, because there was some issue with, once the report is done, it was done on the 7th, the same night, it goes through a approval process through the sergeants, and so it's often in internet land somewhere, and so I just didn't have access to it, but I eventually was able to get it approved and actual hard copy in my hand so I could read it. Okay. But by the time I got there, they were both gone from the headquarters.
Okay. And upon reviewing Officer Zhang's report, were there some initial, what I'll call red flags?
Yes, ma'am. The biggest one would be the time frame of the report from the actual missing person.
Okay. And that was over 30 hours?
That was over 30 hours, yes, which is concerning in my eye.
Okay. And what action did you take from there?
Well, I was still at headquarters. I was contacted by Army CID, Agent Pimpek. We discussed the case. He told me a few things which also raised concern to look for more into this. So I talked to him for about 30 minutes or so. Then I did a little bit of research on their names. Zarrius Hildabrand and Saria Hildabrand, neither one of them were in our system. We'd never had contact with either one of them before. She was in the state system, and that's only because Officer Zhang created what's called an absent ID for her. So anytime it's a missing person and we don't have her in the Alaska and absent is the same thing basically as DMV. Probably if you have a driver's license here, you're all in absent. And you guys go down and create your ID cards at the DMV. If the person's not available, such in this case as a missing person, we create one for her. So it's just a driver's license number for her in Alaska. But after that, we actually responded to 5210 Mockingbird Drive, the Alpine Apartments, to make contact with Zarrius. And then when we got there, we actually made contact with Saria's mom and aunt in the parking lot, talked to them.
And where did you speak with them at?
We talked to them in the parking lot, right outside the building at 5210.
Okay, and was that a fairly lengthy conversation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did they give you some information about Saria's general habits?
They did. We talked about, and I think we actually met them inside the lobby of the rental office, but eventually we had moved outside to the parking lot. Talked about kind of her and Zarrius's relationship, how long they've been married, that sort of thing. I was informed when she last talked to her via text on Saturday night, and then we went from there. Eventually, I was made aware that Zarrius was in the parking lot because she told me I was informed that she got a text from him that he was home, so we went and met with him then at that point. Okay,
she being Meredith?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. So to break a couple of those things down, the last contact she had from her daughter was Saturday night, and that was via text message?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I think the jury's seen the picture of Mr. Hildabrand and Saria with the pickle?
With the pickle, yeah.
Okay, and she showed you that contact?
That's the same picture she showed me, that's the last time that she chatted with her.
Okay, and then while you're talking with Meredith, Barney, and Miss Monson, they received communication from Mr. Hildabrand?
That's correct.
Okay, that he was returning home?
That he was home.
Okay, and so then you went with and met with Mr. Hildabrand? We
did. We met him in the parking lot, asked him if we could talk to him. He led us inside the front door. He opened the front door. He led us inside of his apartment. We went inside of his apartment and interviewed him.
Okay. And that was you and Detective Elby?
Detective Elby, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the jury has heard the audio from that. Fair to say that audio is a little difficult to hear?
It is a little bit hard to hear. We use our phones, so there's a recording app on our phones. So basically, I had my phone on the table, the kitchen table, which I think you saw pictures of. I sat at the table, and then he was in the living room with us. Also, Miss Barney and Miss Monson also came into the room with us. So, and then there was, you probably remember the dogs barking. It was terribly loud. It wasn't the best audio. I have to admit that for sure.
There's an air conditioner?
There's an air conditioner. There was a lot going on there.
Okay. And at some point, Miss Barney and Miss Monson took the dogs and left?
Yes, ma'am.
And you asked Mr. Hildabrand to turn the air conditioner off?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you first walk in the apartment, did you make any observations?
My first observation, and it just kind of comes going with being a police officer for 28 years, you always want to secure weapons. There was a Glock handgun in a holster on the table, and then there was a Sig Sauer P320 handgun on the table. I asked him if I could remove those, which is pretty standard practice in law enforcement. Basically, all I did was pick them up, and there was as I'm sitting at the table looking at the kitchen, there's a small closet or pantry or something that was behind there. Basically, I moved those in the holsters to inside the pantry, and that way, if something bad happened, he didn't have access to those weapons. So.
Okay. And what did he tell you in that first contact about the last time he had seen his wife?
I was told the last time he'd seen his wife was about 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. He said that she left wearing, basically he described as all black, which I think is the uniform of the day over at Bread and Brew. He said he left on foot. He told me that she left with her purse and walked to work. We discussed if that was normal. He told me that that was the first time that she had ever walked to work. There was some discussion about her phone, which he actually pointed out the phone, which was plugged in the living room, and at that point, Miss Barney took the phone and started going through it. And I think that was after she came back after the dog
Ms. Barney?
No, I think she took it before the dog. So, yeah, Ms. Barney actually took the phone and started going through her daughter's phone.
Okay, and Meredith Barney, you mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that, at this point, this is a missing persons investigation, not a homicide investigation?
That's correct.
Okay, and it sounds like he told you she was wearing work attire, all black, and that was the first time she'd walked to work, and approximately what time did he say she had left?
He told me that she left about 10 a.m. that morning.
Okay.
After waking up around 8:30 or 9, he told me that she and he felt like they were too intoxicated to drive, so she decided not to drive because she was worried about a DUI. He told me that it's first time walking and that she walked there. There was some discussion like, could she find the way? And I'm asking this. I know she's been to work 100 times or how many ever times, but I guess I'm asking it like, did she get lost along the way? He told me that she would have used Google Maps or Apple Maps to find the way to the work, which was also concerning because her phone was there, so I'm not sure how that happened.
Okay. And did he tell you what he had done that day?
On Sunday, he told me that when he woke up, I think he said he just lounged around the house. I don't remember his exact words, and he vegetated, or he was a vegetable around the house, so he told me he didn't go anywhere initially.
Did he then say he had done something else?
Well, we had a discussion about video cameras in the apartment, video cameras outside the apartment, and I asked him, basically at that point, calling the bluff, like, well, what are we going to see on video cameras when I go out and review that? Because that's the first thing I'm going to do is go out and look for video cameras, because that's usually the best sign of evidence in these cases. At that point, he changed his story that, I suddenly remember I did go out. I went to Fred Meyer and bought some ingredients for a guacamole dip, I think is what he called it. And he said he went to the Brown Jug liquor store, the warehouse liquor store. I think it's 4040 Old Seward Highway, 4140, whatever the address is there. It's right beside Home Depot on Tudor. Then he said he went there, he bought some bourbon and a Coke.
And did you confront him about the length of time that it took to report Saria missing?
I did. I thought it was very odd that my newlywed wife was gone, missing. I asked him, did he report it to anybody between 10 o'clock when he first discovered her missing? He told me that she was supposed to get home at 7 o'clock that night on Sunday. He told me that he waited until 10 o'clock for her to get home. When she didn't return home, he told me he drove to Bread and Brew, which was closed, and so 10 o'clock was really when, I think, according to him, when he started missing her. Then, so I asked him, I said, well, between 10 o'clock on Sunday and the report on Monday night to Officer Zhang, did you contact anybody? And he told me he did not. I think his words were, he wanted to make sure it wasn't some kind of freak accident. And when I say freak accident, he actually said freak accident. And there was some discussion on, well, if it was a freak accident, I think that's when I would call the police. And then he said, well, I just wanted to make sure she didn't get lost. And again, I think I addressed, I think if your wife is lost, that's probably when you do need to call the police. So he couldn't really account for why there was no report or why nobody else was called.
Okay. And did you, were you present when Detective Elby asked if he could look around the home?
Yes, ma'am, I was. I was sitting in the chair. Detective Elby was behind me. He asked if he could look around. Zarrius said, yeah, go ahead and look around. And that's normal. It doesn't happen with adults that often, but with children, missing children, it's amazing how often we go out to the house and we find the young child sleeping under a bed or sleeping under some clothing or whatever else. So it's pretty custom for police officers, and in this case, the police officer didn't do it, but the detective the next day, we need to make sure that maybe she's sleeping, and who knows what. So we did look around the house, which is pretty standard.
Okay, and we heard Detective Elby testify about the sheets and observations that he made in the bedroom. Did you make those same observations that Mr. Hildabrand appeared nervous in the bedroom?
Very much so. Also, before the sheets, there was some discussion when I was sitting, so I'm sitting at the table chatting with Zarrius. Detective Elby comes out and points out the sheets that are basically within arm's reach. I'm sitting at the table, so they're basically here, the Fred Meyer brand of sheets. He asked about those sheets. He told us that he didn't know really when they were purchased, but he said his wife probably purchased them when he was out in the field. So that kind of started that whole sheet discussion. And then Detective Elby thought it was odd enough to call us back to the bedroom. We went back to the bedroom. The mattress was covered by what I describe as a new mattress pad. And when I say new, you could probably, all of you probably unfolded new sheets. They have those little square designs on them, like they're not slept in, basically. So it looked like a new mattress pad. On top of the mattress, underneath the mattress, you can kind of see just the hint of dark blue or navy blue fitted sheets. And so there was discussion on why is the mattress pad on top of the sheets, and he said something about him buying it that way, the bed that way. And he lifted up just the very corner of the mattress and showed us those navy blue fitted sheets covered up by a brand new mattress pad. So we had that discussion, and at that point we asked him, well, can we, in my opinion, he was hiding it.
Objection.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, he was not lifting the bed as much as you normally would. He lifted it probably 2 inches. He lifted it just enough so we can see the sheets. We couldn't see under the bed. We couldn't see anything else. At that point, we could kind of see that there was some space between there. I think, I don't know that we would have necessarily looked under there just based on the space, but it was enough that we probably should have looked initially when Detective Elby was walking around. But so we asked him, can we look under the bed? It just seems like that's one more place we need to search. And he told us we could not look under the bed.
And I'm going to ask you about kind of after that, did you begin to ask him some harder questions? You know, when you guys go out of the room, do you ask him some harder questions about the text messaging that you were aware of?
I did. So I was made aware of the discrepancy in the text messages, mainly that text messages to her employer at 10:44 a.m.
And that's Nadia Jones was the manager?
That's Nadia Jones. She discussed those same text messages, and then some discussion about Craig, who is the owner of Bread and Brew, that discussion. And I was made aware of those discrepancies by Agent Pimpak because he talked to Nadia. I was informed that he did talk to Nadia and Craig.
And just to point out the discrepancy, Mr. Hildabrand's telling you that Saria left for work at 10 a.m. and
correct.
Nadia had received a text message at 10:44?
That's correct.
Okay, and when you confronted him about that, how did he respond?
He didn't have a legitimate, he didn't have an answer at all. I asked him, so her work is getting these texts at 10:44. You say that she left at 10. We all know, including her mom knows now, that the phone is still here. She didn't leave with the phone. How's that happening? How did your wife send, basically what I'm asking him, how did your wife send this text at 10:44 when her phone is here with you? And she's obviously walking to work. And he didn't have an answer for me.
Okay. After you finished speaking with Mr. Hildabrand, who did you contact next?
Well, after I talked to Mr. Hildabrand, or I think it was during I was talking to Mr. Hildabrand, I got...
Well, let me actually just clarify a couple of things about that conversation. So at this point, her being Meredith Barney has Saria's phone in her possession.
That's correct.
Okay, and you were told that Saria left at 10 a.m. wearing all black and carrying her black wallet or purse?
Yeah, basically he described it kind of like a day or a fanny pack kind of thing.
Okay, and Mr. Hildabrand told you he had gone to the Brown Jug and to the Fred Meyers?
That's correct.
And he denied purchasing any sheets?
He denied purchasing any sheets. We told him that we'd review the video at the Fred Meyer, and he said that he was never in the sheet aisle. He was never in the area where they sell sheets.
Okay. So then you end up talking to Ms. Wentz?
I did, and if I go back a little bit, I think before I actually talked to Zarrius, I actually talked to Captain Josh Thielen. He called, and we discussed the need for a search, and I basically logistically told him where he needs to be, bring as many people as you can, that sort of thing, because he offered basically bringing a lot of people, which he eventually did. But I think I talked to him before I talked to Zarrius. Okay. And then when I was talking to Zarrius, then a phone call comes in from Marie, and I talked to her on the phone and asked her if she could meet me at the apartment building, at his apartment building at 5210, and discuss, because she seemed like she would have the most knowledge at that point. Her best friend's missing, and one of the last people to see her anyway.
Okay. And without getting into all the details, did she tell you, the last time she had seen Mr. Hildabrand and Miss Hildabrand together on the 6th, the early morning hours of the 6th,
That's
Saturday
correct.
night?
Yes. She gave me a timeline of the events and the last time she saw.
Okay. And then about what time in the evening are you now on Tuesday, the 8th?
So when I contacted Marie, I think it was about 7 o'clock. And then once I get done with Marie, I then go out and contact all these Army people showed up, Army people's wives. There were some kids out there. I was told all from Zarrius's battalion and from her unit. I've honestly never seen a response like this before. As far as searching goes, so I was pretty impressed that many people showed up. Like, I couldn't even had that many cops come over and help with the search. So I was very impressed with the Army's response on this, and probably 70 or 80 people eventually showed up around 9. And then we started I didn't personally, at that point I was kind of acting like command post. I've done a lot of these searches, and it's always nice to have that one person, a central point of contact, not in the woods, not being distracted by things. So I stayed in the parking lot and stayed in communication with some of the searchers, including Captain Thielen.
Okay. And that first initial search with 70 to 80 military folks takes place at about 9 p.m. on Tuesday? Yes,
ma'am, and it lasted, I would assume the last person probably got out of there midnight or 1 probably. So we kind of coordinated, so they searched everything north of Alpenhorn, which is just the street north of, I think you've seen enough maps probably, where Alpenhorn goes north all the way to Tudor, and everything from the Seward Highway, or Brayton Drive, which is the frontage road for New Seward, all the way east to past Bed and Brew, so all that entire green belt. We made Waldron Pond all the way over to Waldron Park, and of course into all that whole green belt there is where we arranged a search at. And I was told that search was done.
Okay, so I'm going to have you make some marks on some exhibits for me, just so that the jury knows what areas we're talking about. I have a red Sharpie, because we've previously had Mr. Engstrom mark on Exhibit 17, which is the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And we've had A1 Landscaping, Mr. Giles, mark on Exhibit 46, but I'm going to have you make a couple of marks on those exhibits for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so starting with Exhibit 17, is that an up-close of the building that Mr. Engstrom and Mr. Hildabrand lived in?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, and there's kind of a long side and a short side on that?
That's correct.
Can I have you put an E on the side that Mr. Engstrom lived in, and an H on the side about where Mr. Hildabrand's apartment was?
Yes, H. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you've got an E and an H?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so for the record, you've marked Mr. Engstrom on the short side, Mr. Hildabrand on the long side.
That's correct.
And then on Exhibit 46, I'm going to have you do two things. First, use the laser pointer and go ahead and show the jury on the map that's projected. If you could turn down the lights, Madam Clerk. which of those 4 buildings that comprise Alpine Apartments was the Engstrom Hildabrand building?
So this is Alpenhorn Road right there. This side of this long building, so this entire building is 5210. Mr. Hildabrand and Saria's apartment is about midway down here. Sorry for the shaking. And then Mr. Engstrom's apartment's about right here. So that apartment right there, the very north one of this building, or this complex. This entire complex is Alpine Apartments, and each of them have a different address. It's 5210, or yeah, 5210, and then this one's like 5215 or something. But it's all Alpine Apartments, but they do all have an individual address.
Okay. Can you go ahead and circle on the map in red the building that was theirs?
Yes. Okay.
And then can I have you put another circle on the map where Bread and Brew is in red?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then we're going to get to this later, but were you present at the storm drain after Saria's body was recovered?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And can I have you put in S where that storm drain is on the map?
Did you say an S?
S.
Like Sierra,
like Saria and
okay.
storm drain?
Yes, ma'am.
S.
It's going to be over the top of the SM where the trash can was found, but it's
okay.
Basically the same place as where SM circled and I think described where you found the trash can.
Okay. And then now on the map, the jury heard when they were listening to that audio, Mr. Hildabrand tell you what route he believed Saria would have walked.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just have you show the jury that with the laser pointer?
Sure. So he described that she would have took the access road for the trail system, and that would have been through here and up through that area there.
Okay, so the opposite side of where that access road is?
That's correct. And something to note here, and he sounded like he went out there, that there's only one bridge, and it's right there across Campbell Creek. So you either can go north here on the access road, or you have to go here where that bridge comes from Tudor Elementary School to get up into this neighborhood. There's another bridge up there that actually crosses Campbell Creek.
Okay. Can I have you kind of do a dotted line on the map where he showed you that she likely would have walked?
Okay.
And is that essentially the opposite side of Waldron Park from where she was found?
Yes, it's the opposite side of this green belt, which is, this whole thing is Waldron Park, the baseball diamond here you can see, and she's found right here-ish, and then you have to walk through the park to that access road, and then across the bridge there.
Okay. And it sounds like the search team that night worked all of Waldron Park and Waldron Pond and those neighborhood streets between Waldron Park and Bread and Brew?
That's correct. I was informed that entire thing was done by an Army captain who's very good at coordinates and maps, who does artillery for a living. So I was in good hands because he was leading all those people all through there.
Okay. And so that takes you, I think you said, through midnight, 1 a.m. on the 8th, which is Tuesday night.
The 8th into the morning of the 9th, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then on the 9th, what actions did you, we can turn the light back up, Madam Clerk. On the 9th, what actions did you take?
On the 9th, I went in after about a 24-hour day. I think I didn't come back to work until 9-ish that morning. If I step back a little bit, on the 8th, I did we have all the traffic cameras that are at major intersections in town have cameras on top of them. So if you run a red light, they don't use it for red lights, but you could probably be seen running a red light. So we often get those. And so on the 8th, I ordered traffic cameras for Tudor and the old Seward, Tudor and New Seward, Tudor and Abbott Road, which would be to the south of the apartment buildings, and I wanted those reviewed. I also, just to put some more things that I did and some more effort we put into it, we did put out what's called, it used to be called a rave. Now it's called a nixle. I don't know if you've signed up for nixles. Basically, it's APD putting out, hey, this person's missing, put people on the lookout for them, comes up over your phone. So I did that on the night of the 8th when I was basically monitoring the command post. But when I got in on the next day on the 9th, those traffic camera videos were available, so I coordinated with 5 police officers who were in the building, and they assisted by reviewing those to see if maybe they saw Saria walking out or somebody carrying Saria walking out, but it would have been at one of those intersections, and I was informed that they never saw anything of evidence.
Yeah, did you ever get anything meaningful off traffic cameras that were helpful?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay. And there is no traffic camera there at Alpenhorn and Brayton?
No, there's not. So there's one here at this intersection, and then there's also another one that we got at Lake Otis, which is way down here to the east, and then there's one at Dowling. I'm sorry, I don't know what I said earlier. Dowling is down here. There's a roundabout down here, and there's one down there at the roundabout.
Okay, so those more major intersections.
Yes, ma'am. Quite a ways away from Alpine Apartments.
Okay. And I think Detective Elby covered this, but, you know, when you're talking to Mr. Hildabrand, you're telling him things like, oh, there's going to be cameras around this apartment. Was that to some degree a bluff and to some degree wishful thinking?
It's very wishful thinking and a bluff. I knew that Alpine Apartments didn't have good video. They have good video inside the inside the apartment manager's office or the rental office, but as far as outside, they don't have cameras that work.
Or at least at that time
they didn't. I think they do now, yes.
Okay, and were you familiar with that just from other investigations and times you'd worked that apartment building?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're back on Wednesday the 9th. Did you write some search warrants?
I did. So Wednesday the 9th, I spent most of my day writing search warrants. I wrote a search warrant for 5210 Mockingbird Drive, number 13. I wrote a search warrant for Zarrius Hildabrand's phone records, and I wrote a search warrant for Saria Hildabrand's phone records to AT&T. A lot of the day also, I did a lot of coordination with the AST search team who ultimately came out. So anytime we have a search, they're the official search team for Alaska, and you have to go through the troopers to do that. So there's a lot of coordination between the troopers, and then ultimately the search team leader, which I don't remember who it was at this point, calls me for information about the case, where to look, where not to look, what's looked before, and then they come out and do that. So there was a lot of coordination through the day between writing search warrants and then doing the coordination for the search team.
Okay. And did you ultimately get those warrants approved?
Yes, ma'am. It was close to, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night, I think, that those warrants were approved.
Okay. At some point during the day, did APD seize the residence, meaning that Mr. Hildabrand wasn't allowed to go back in?
Yes, ma'am. After discussion with the DA's office, with my fellow detectives, we decided that we had enough probable cause to seize.
Objection.
Overruled.
I determined that we had enough probable cause to seize the residence, so I asked dispatch to send police officers to the residence and seize it.
Okay. And then that's kind of pending the search warrant?
And that's pending the search warrant. The officers didn't go out there and search. It's just they go out there and this now belongs to the police department until we're done with it, or until the search warrant comes in or doesn't come in.
Okay. And I think the jury has heard the contact that Detective Elby and Detective Lee had with Mr. Hildabrand in the outside of the apartment building pending that search warrant.
That's correct.
Did you end up having a phone call with with Mr. Hildabrand about the phone, about the warrant? the
Yes,
search
ma'am.
warrant?
So Detective Roberts and I decided to drive down to Alpine Apartments, and we were going to deliver a hard copy of the search warrant, which is normal practice. When we were driving down to there, I think it was about 10 o'clock, we received a phone call from Zarrius, which we recorded, or that Detective Roberts recorded, I should say.
Okay, and when you say 10 o'clock p.m.?
10 o'clock p.m., yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you reviewed what I've marked for identification as State's Exhibit 349, which is a copy of that phone call?
Yes, ma'am.
And does it truly and accurately depict the call that you had with Mr. Hildabrand that day?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay, I'd move at this point for the admission of State's Exhibit 349. It is, my eyes are terrible, just about a 5-minute phone call.
That sounds about right.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
It's admitted?
You guys ever get that search warrant?
Yeah, we actually got it. We just got it. I sent it over to the crime scene team. Most of those guys got to get called in from home. So what's going to happen is they're gathering, they're getting dressed and grabbing their gear and stuff, and then they'll head over there. So hopefully with that in mind, it shouldn't take too long. And when we're all done, we can give you a call or something if you want. Are you planning on going back to the house tonight, or are you going to just stay over at the dorms tonight?
No, I'm staying somewhere else tonight.
Okay. I can send you a text or something like, hey, we're done, or I can give you a call when we're done, or whatever you prefer.
I'm indifferent, sir. Did the dogs anything come from that?
Did what?
Anything ever come from the dogs?
They're still out there looking, actually.
Okay.
What do you think, now that I got you on the phone, what are we missing here? We've been doing this for about 2 days now.
I gave Detective LB all the information.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him about it. I've been writing reports all day. I apologize for not being more involved.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, chat with me. Let's figure out what we need to do next. I'm all about getting advice from whoever I can.
I can't really tell you, sir, because I don't really know. You know what I mean?
You know her best, though. Where are we going to find this girl at? She's your wife. She's the love of your life, et cetera, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I gave Detective LB all the information.
But I want it again, bro. Let's chat this up. I like the small details.
Like I said, I can't really think of anything else that I didn't tell him. I said University Dog Lake.
Yeah, where is it?
University Lake Dog Park.
Would you go over there without the dogs, though?
No, she wouldn't.
Okay. What makes you think we should check over that area?
Just an area she would frequent with the dogs. So.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. And still nothing with, did she go out with Marie at all on Sunday, or do you think Marie's, trying to hide something, or?
Oh, no, Marie's as innocent as there can be. I don't think she has anything to do with it. They're never really violent or any, they really don't even go back and forth. They're pretty good friendship, pretty healthy, I would say. I do have a question about that search warrant, though.
Yeah.
What else does it include? Is it whole house, fucking everything?
It's the whole house, yeah. We're just going to check the whole house, make sure we're not missing anything.
All right. Are you guys going to go through bags and stuff like that as well?
Are we going to do what?
Go through bags and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to try to go through everything we can. Just make sure we don't have something like, she left a note, hey, I left a note, I'm going to go, I've had enough of this marriage, and I'm going to go whatever. You know what I'm saying? Is there something you're concerned about, or is there?
How soon will that search warrant start happening? I didn't really hear what you were saying earlier.
No, it should happen. I don't know, probably within an hour, I would think. To be honest, they're like I say, they're calling all these guys from home, so it kind of depends on when they get up, get a shower, get their pants on, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and then what, you think the search warrant itself will take 2-3 hours as well?
Yeah, maybe. Is there something you're concerned about in the house, or?
No, sir. I'm just curious of time.
Okay.
That's all.
There's nothing in the house we need to worry about? Just the two guns? Just the two guns in there?
They've already been told about, sir.
Okay.
But unfortunately, basically, my commander, sorry, not my commander, someone else is calling me, and I don't know the number, so I'm gonna give them a call back real quick.
No, talk to me. I'm more important than they are, because we need to figure out where she's at. I'm gonna stay up all night if I have to.
You're on what?
I said, I'm gonna stay up all night if I have to.
Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine.
No, that's not fine with me, bro. We're gonna stay up all night and find your wife, is what we need to do.
No, I know, but, okay.
Right?
Yep, that is correct, sir. Thank you.
Help me out. What are we gonna do to find your wife? There has to be some small piece that we're missing. There's always some small piece of the puzzle that we're, not thinking of, or, and you're always the best person to ask, being the husband of her, because you live with her 24/7, except, when you're at work and she's at work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are we gonna find under the bed? Is there,
Back in like 5 minutes, I have to carry a bunch of stuff inside.
Yeah, call me back in 5 minutes.
All right, thank you, bye.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Matt.
All right.
Did you have any additional phone contact with Mr. Hildabrand?
No, ma'am, he never called back.
Okay. And after that, did you deliver the copy of the search warrant to Officer Keating, who was the crime scene team leader that night?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And do you all share information with the crime scene team?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Why do you do that?
Well, I mean, if you take this courtroom, for example, you come in here and if you know where maybe the crime happened at, if you during an interview somebody tells you something, there's not a need to go over the entire courtroom with a fine-tooth comb. So if the shooting happened behind that desk, you'd have him concentrate behind that desk. So you want to tell him where to concentrate his efforts at, because, I mean, with any household, there's just so much stuff to look through. You don't know what belongs, what doesn't belong, what might be out of place to you may not be out of place to the Hildabrand family, so.
Okay. And despite that coordination, is it fair to say they use a fine-tooth comb?
Yes, ma'am, it's very monotonous. I could never do it. They go through there and swab and picture and photograph everything, so.
Okay. And that process takes sometimes over 12 hours?
Absolutely.
Okay. And are you in coordination with them as they are finding things?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do they deliver their photos electronically to the homicide unit?
They do. Those are, now with the iPhones and so forth, all that stuff is pretty much not instantaneous, but all you got to do is hit submit, and it goes to a system we call Axon, and then Axon is on all of our desktops, so I can start reviewing photos as they come in, interviews as they come in, et cetera.
Okay. And the next day, were you reviewing some of those crime scene photos?
I was.
And did you notice anything particular that piqued your attention?
I noticed a mop bucket that seemed out of place to me. I looked it up. I don't remember the brand of it. I'd have to look at my report, but I looked it up on the internet, and it was a brand sold by the Lowe's company.
So what did you do with that information?
I called Detective Lee, who was out doing follow-up on this case, and asked him to go to Lowe's. I was informed that he was already at Lowe's.
Okay, because he had been coordinating with Agent Pempek?
Agent Pempek, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Had information that the defendant had been to Lowe's?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you gave Detective Lee the information about the mop bucket while he was collecting information about the trash can?
That's correct, and then he gave me information about the trash can.
Okay.
In return.
And based on the information you learned about the trash can from Detective Lee, what did you do?
Well, I thought it was very suspicious that...
Objection.
Overruled.
I thought it was very suspicious that somebody who had a missing wife would be out shopping for a 96-gallon toter trash can. So I immediately, what went to my mind is what I thought we had to go out and find that trash can.
We approach you, please.
if I can approach us, it's Exhibit 42. So you say you got to go out and find that trash can. What do you do?
So myself and Sergeant Reynolds, who was the supervisor of the homicide unit, he made it back that day, and so we drove out to Alpine Apartments to look for that trash can. We told Detective Lee to meet us there. We all met at the Alpine Apartments. Initially, we looked for the trash can in the apartment complex, and we found a lot of trash cans that people used of kind of similar size, but none of them were brand new. Clearly, all of them were old, stinky trash cans, and so we didn't pay really attention to them because they were, I mean, it's clear everybody has a trash can and knows what an old, stinky trash can looks like. They were not the new trash can we were looking for. So at that point, we decided, well, we need to go search across the street in the wood line, and as soon as I started walking across the street, I saw the A1 lawn company truck, and lo and behold, they had a 96-gallon brand-new toter trash can in the back of their truck.
Okay, and is Exhibit 42 how you saw it?
Yes, ma'am, this is exactly how we found it.
Okay. And then I think we've heard from Detective Aldridge and the people that collected it and processed it. After that, about what time of the day is that on Thursday, the 10th?
I think that's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. What's the, we talked a little bit about the coordination with Lowe's. The jury's heard about the coordination with Fred Myers.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hildebrand told you he went to Brown Jug on the Sunday after his wife was missing as well?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do anything to follow up on that?
Detective Elby did, actually, but ultimately I received video from Roy Chappell, who is the head of security for all the Brown Jugs in Alaska, and he has access to all the video, and he has access to the receipts, the digital receipts. Ultimately, he sent me a video of interest from that store, the warehouse store over on Old Seward, 4140 Old Seward, or whatever it is.
Okay, did he actually send you two videos, one from the inside and one from the exit?
He sent me quite a few videos, but the two most interesting ones were of Zarrius Hildabrand buying alcohol and a 2-liter of Coke about 4 o'clock. I think it's closer to 4:30 on the video.
Objection.
Overruled.
Okay. Let me just walk you through it a little bit.
Yes.
The jury heard Detective Elby testify that he coordinated with Mr. Chappell, is that his name?
Chappell, Roy Chappell.
Roy Chappell.
Yes, ma'am.
And then does APD use a system for gathering evidence from citizens?
They do. So that Axon that I was talking about earlier, basically, if you have a Ring video at your house, and normally those Ring videos, you can look at them on your phone. So you see a clip of interest, what I'm going to do, I'll send you a link to Axon. You'll download your video of interest to Axon, and then I'll give you under the case numbers, I'll embed it in that link. And then when you, as a witness or as a citizen that lives nearby or whatever, sends that video in, that video goes directly to my Axon case file. So in this case file, there's thousands of videos from crime scene, from the traffic cameras. They all go in that same case file. So what Detective Elby did was send him a link with my name on it, and then it uploaded in under my name, basically.
Okay, and so you received the videos from
Yeah, so
Mr.
once the video comes in, then on my email, I get an alert, basically. It says, hey, you just got a video from Roy Chappell at the Brown Jug.
Okay,
Objection.
and have you been in that Brown Jug warehouse?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay, and have you seen Mr. Hildebrand?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay, does the video appear to be what it purports to be, a video from the inside and the exit of Brown Jug?
It does, yes.
And is there a time stamp on the exit video?
Yes, ma'am.
Overruled.
And
Approach, please.
a chance to review the videos that Mr. Chappell sent on that, Mr. Chappell sent on that secure links.
Yes, ma'am, I have.
And the first one, what I had marked as State's Exhibit 347, the one from the interior of the brown jug, what does it depict?
It depicts the cashier area of it, and it shows a lot of the background area of the brown jug. And then ultimately, just before 4:30, about 4:29, it shows Zarrius Hildabrand walking from the back. You don't actually see where he selects the items, but he comes up with a bottle of liquor and a bottle of a 2-liter bottle of soda, of Coke. I can't recognize what kind of liquor it is, but I'm a big Coke drinker, so definitely a 2-liter of Coca-Cola.
Okay, and then on the exit video, towards the end of that, does it show him leave?
Yes, and so the exit video basically is like this camera here that's staring me in the face, is basically right here. So as he walks out the door, it like hits him right in the face, the video footage does. So it's a very clear video of him walking out of the Brown Jug Liquor Store at 4:30 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay, and do you recognize him?
Absolutely.
And do you recognize the clothing he's wearing in other videos?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. I'd move at this point, Judge, for the admission of State's Exhibit 347 and 348 and publication.
They're admitted over the objection, and you may publish.
Can I return the lights down, Madam Clerk? So this is 347. Is there any audio on this?
No, ma'am,
video?
there's not.
And I'm going to fast forward partway through. Do you see Mr. Hildabrand in this frame?
That's him walking right there,
Okay.
going towards the back of the store. Of course, the cashier's here.
Is he still in that second aisle there?
Yes, ma'am, he's back, towards the back of the store, looking at the selections.
I'm going to move forward a little more. And where is he now?
This is him waiting in lines. This Brown Jug has about 3, I don't know if they're all open, I can't tell. They has 3 or 4 cashiers, so normally a line forms right there, and then you just go to the next available cashier. And as he's standing now to the right of him, towards the left-hand side of the screen would be the exit. So it's about, from this area right here, it's about a 15-foot to the next camera where he's leaving the store.
Okay, and you testified that you're not sure the bottle of alcohol. Are you familiar with the text message he sent to his father?
I mean, I know what it is now. It's Four Roses bourbon.
Okay. And is that based on?
It's based on those text messages and what they found at the apartment. They found a half-drink bottle of Four Roses bourbon that looked just like what he had there.
Okay. And then I'm going to go to State's Exhibit 348, which is is this the exit door?
Yes, ma'am, it is. So at about 4:29, 4:30, he walks out right here.
Okay. So I'm going to fast forward to 4:29. Oh, sorry, I brought it back. Mm-hmm.
And I think he's after this guy. I think it started over again.
Oh, that was my fault. I apologize. Mm-hmm.
This is him here.
So right at 30 and 12 seconds.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just to kind of put that in the time frame of his day on the 7th, or I'm sorry, on the 6th, on the Sunday, you know, we talked with Detective Lee about those trips to Fred Meyer's.
Mm-hmm.
Had he been to Lowe's yet at this time?
No, he has not.
Okay, so
The Lowe's trip was closer to 8 o'clock.
Okay, so at the point that he's buying the Four Roses and the alcohol, presumably Saria's body's still in the apartment?
Yes.
After collecting this information, did you end up returning to Alpenhorn?
I did, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and why did you return to Alpenhorn?
To contact, later on the 9th, is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about on the 10th, after you get the trash can sent for processing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So on the 10th, did you get a call from either Detective Chakowski or Officer Muma?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, and what was
Detective Chakowski, sorry.
Okay, and what was the nature of that call?
He said he found...
Okay. Had Saria's body been recovered?
I was informed it was.
Did you go to that location?
It was found. It wasn't recovered yet, but it was found.
Okay. Did you go to that location?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And what observations did you make when you went to the location?
I went to a culvert or an entry to basically it would be a sewer or a storm drain in this. It's about this tall, about 3 feet tall. It's a concrete one. I think we saw pictures of it. It has a very heavy manhole cover on it, one of the big metal ones you see in the middle of the street. It was removed when I got there. Her body was still at the bottom of it, which is about a 15-foot drop from the top to the bottom. There's at the bottom of it, there's water in it running from, it'd be running north, it'd be running from the south, the Alpine Apartments, back towards the north, towards Campbell Creek. But at the bottom of it, there's this big tube, so I can only assume that once you go into that tube, then you're just in a big tunnel that comes out of Campbell Creek. But as soon as I stuck my face in there, I noticed a very strong odor of gasoline. I didn't see any indication of burning. I didn't see any indication that the gasoline was started, but there's no doubt in my mind that I smelled gasoline when I looked down there.
And can you tell the jury, like, when you say no doubt in your mind, have you had the unfortunate occasion to experience the smell of decomposing bodies? Yes,
ma'am. I've, just since I've been in homicide, I think I've been involved in probably 150 homicide cases. At 28 years on the street, unfortunately, patrol officers are always the first ones at any crime scene, almost 99% of the time. So even if it's not a crime scene, even if it's grandpa or grandma dying at home, the police officers have to go there and investigate that. Patrol officers are always the first one there. I've smelled, unfortunately, hundreds, if not thousands, of bodies. Also, just being any human being, we've all smelled gasoline. I knew exactly what it wasn't decomp body, it was gasoline. I actually worked, I used to climb into gas tanks and clean them out for almost a year in between the Army and becoming a cop. I'd crawl into the big 300-foot gasoline tanks and wash them out with a power washer. So I have intimate knowledge of gasoline, and unfortunately I have intimate knowledge of what a body smells like. Okay. So I smelled gasoline when I opened up.
Okay. And have you reviewed the photos of the inside of Mr. Hildabrand's vehicle?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And was there a gas can in the back of his vehicle?
Yes, ma'am, there was. Also in the bottom, I noticed some pillows, the same color, navy blue color. The pillowcase on it was the same navy blue color that I saw on the bed when he lifted up that corner of the mattress. It was the navy blue color underneath the mattress pad. So in my mind, that pillowcase matched that pillow or that fitted sheet.
Okay. And are you familiar with the recovery process that was coordinated between the police department and AFD?
Yes, ma'am. I wasn't out there for it, but I am familiar with it.
Okay. And was evidence seized there, Ms. Hildabrand's body taken to the medical examiner's office?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Okay. And then the bedding and the pillowcase and the gloves, were those taken into evidence?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Okay. And later, did you help coordinate what evidence would be tested?
Yes, ma'am. I think that wasn't until January, till we made sure everything was in, and then we sent quite a few items. I think we discussed it with Emily Matthews. She got 14 herself, and then we sent a few other things into the lab, so.
Okay. That's part of the case the case officer's job to help decide or help guide the lab what items should be tested?
That's correct.
Okay. After Saria's body was recovered, did you contact Mr. Hildabrand?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And did you have a search warrant for his person at that point?
At that point, I did not have a search warrant. He was still walking around. I chatted with him a little bit, trying to get more information from him, and then...
did you end up getting a search warrant for his person?
Yes, ultimately, we brought him down to the police station, and I applied for a search warrant for his person.
Okay. And did you take prints?
So the search warrant included finger and palm prints and known DNA sample and photographs. Detective Lee took those photographs while I was present, and then I took the fingerprints, the palm prints, and known DNA, which is basically just a big Q-tip and you swab on the inside of his cheek. It's kind of like taking a COVID test almost, so.
And were those all submitted to the lab along with the other items that we've discussed?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Okay. Now, there's been some discussion in this case about the weapon that was ultimately used and, you know, the conflict of whether this is homicide or suicide.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the weapon that was identified as the homicide weapon in front of you?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And what's the number on, what the state's exhibit number on it? Not the police number, my number.
Sorry. 276, exhibit number 276.
Okay, and what kind of weapon is state's exhibit 276?
It's a Sig Sauer 9mm handgun.
Okay. And in the course of this case, have you put some thought into whether it would be possible to use that weapon to self-inflict a shot on the left side of her head where Miss Hildabrand was shot?
I put a lot of thought into it, and it's...
Objection.
Yes, ma'am, I put a lot of thought into it, and I made my own determination, I guess, if you will.
Can you tell the jury what your opinion about that is?
Objection.
Overruled.
My opinion is that someone shot her, and it's not impossible to shoot yourself in that manner, at that distance, at that angle. It's not impossible, because lots of stuff is possible. It's not very probable, though. It never happens. I've been to...
Objection.
Overruled.
I've been to hundreds of suicides. Every suicide I've ever been to that involved a handgun was a contact wound. Every one. Not one time have I ever been to what we determined was a suicide that it wasn't a contact wound, meaning the gun was pressed against the person's, not necessarily skin, but their hat or their hoodie or their body. It was pressed against them. That's every single one.
Is there usually blood on the weapon when that happens?
Every single suicide that I've ever been to, in my experience, 28 years on the force, every one, there's always blood. I can't say always, but probably 99% there is blood on the weapon in the barrel, because when it's a contact wound, the blood actually comes back into the barrel after the gas is expanded, then pushes blood into the barrel normally.
I'm going to approach this one and feel that was what I've marked for identification as State's Exhibit 352. What is State's Exhibit 352?
It's a dummy gun, or we just call it just like it shows. It's an orange gun. We use it for training at the Anchorage Police Department. So we're not pointing live weapons at one another, even if part of our training is even if the weapon is unloaded, you don't point it at anybody, but we feel safe pointing this at us because it's just a piece of plastic.
Okay. And when you look and examine the weapon in this case, the Sig Sauer, is it roughly the same dimensions?
Looks like it's about a 1/4 inch longer, so the barrel length on, so this is a mock-up of a Glock 17, which is a 9mm Glock handgun. This is a 9mm Sig Sauer P328, if I remember right. So the barrel length on this one, I think, was almost 4 inches. This is just over 4 inches. That's about a 1/4 inch.
For the record, it's not clear when you're just speaking which barrel length you're talking about.
I'm sorry. So on this Glock, this mock-up of the Glock handgun is just over 4 inches. The actual Sig Sauer 328, P328, is just under 4 inches. So this mock-up, the orange gun, is just a hair longer, not much.
Okay. And when you say it is improbable for the wound on Saria to be self-inflicted, can you show the jury what you mean with that mock-up that is 352?
Yes. So this, if anybody's uncomfortable, it is a piece of plastic. So normally you hold a handgun like this, normally, at 6 inches, and there is a tape measure that I think you'll have access to, but at 6 inches, or even longer, 6 inches, to me, for one thing, that's uncomfortable and hurts my wrist, and I'm not a flexible female. I granted that. She might have been more flexible than me, but 6 inches is about the length of my hand, is there, and that's just that's uncomfortable, and that's just barely skimming that almost, like I wouldn't feel comfortable shooting myself there because I'm afraid I'm not going to miss, unfortunately.
Is it painful on your wrist?
It's painful on my wrist doing this. It's actually painful. It's not impossible to shoot yourself in that angle because if you notice the pictures I've looked at 100 times, it's an angle back this way, back towards your ear that comes out about. It doesn't come out, but the ME showed that it was back here that it was would have been the exit wound if it would have exited. So it's at an angle like this almost at it, and getting to that angle with this gun at 6 inches is very, not impossible, but it's not comfortable, and it's just not something I've ever seen, shooting yourself at 6 inches. And actually with your left hand on this left-hand side of your body, it's actually more uncomfortable. This actually hurts my wrist more because it's harder to get at that angle, unfortunately. And you could do it like this, but again, in my experience in training, I know that this was not a contact wound, and I think that's been described plenty by the people who are experts at it. But in my training experience, I agree this is not a contact wound because of the stippling.
And just so folks can compare the two and feel them themselves, I would move at this point, Judge, to publish by passing around 276 and 352.
And there is so if I can just hold it up, there is a lock on it. I have the key in my pocket, so you can't access it very easily. So there's a gun lock on it. This gun lock I just put this on there the day before the trial started, so just to kind of ignore that as far as evidence goes, because that was added later just for court security.
Okay. And the weight of this gun, what does that feel like?
This is a little lighter.
Okay.
Granted, especially with that one had bullets in it, but this one's definitely lighter. The orange one is definitely lighter.
May I, Judge?
Yes.
And the 276 will not go back with the jury, but I would move.
No, typically the guns do not. If you want to look at, 276 being the gun, you're giving an opportunity to look at it here, but typically if you wanted to take a look at that during your deliberations, you would be brought back in here. The gun would be sitting on a table and you could pass by and look at it.
Okay. And I would move for 352 to go back with the caveat that of the dimension difference. So I'd move for the admission of 352.
May we approach?
Yes. All right, it's admitted. Dunlap, could you collect the gun, please?
Those are all my questions, Judge.
Counsel?
May we approach, Judge?
Yes. We're going to take a break before cross-examination. I'll have you back here in about 15 minutes. Please don't discuss the case.
Normal people would do something.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Judge.
Good morning, Detective Clark.
Good morning, ma'am.
Few things.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you've been a detective for approximately 20 years, correct?
No, ma'am, I didn't. I said I've been a police officer for 28 years. I've been a detective for 6 years, and in between that, I was an FBI. I was sworn in as a federal agent for 6 years. So I've been a detective 5 years, since June of 21.
At any course at any time during your law enforcement career,
Mm-hmm.
did you ever receive any training on what confirmation bias is?
Confirmation bias? I've heard that term. I don't remember what it means.
Okay.
I don't know that I've had training on it, though, if that was your question, though, ma'am.
You've never had training on confirmation bias? Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of your testimony relating to the DNA and other testing that was done in this case. So, do you recall testifying on direct that you coordinated evidence to be tested with or Dr. Matthews?
I didn't coordinate it necessarily for Dr. Matthews. I coordinated it with the person who does that coordination. So I don't actually talk to Dr. Matthews herself. I don't talk to Samantha Castle herself. There's a point of contact at the crime lab, and she's the one that decides that with me and with Ms. Dunlap, and then we agree, and then I send in that lab request. But I never talked directly to Ms. Matthews.
Thank you for clarifying that. So to be clear, when you're coordinating what's going to be testing, you're having a meeting with Ms. Dunlap present, correct?
It's done over, sometimes. In this instance, it was done over Zoom, like a Zoom meeting. Teams, possibly, yes. I'm the IT guy, yes.
And then you're also coordinating with a person from the crime lab?
Yes, ma'am.
And the three of you determine what testing should be done, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am.
noted you testified at the beginning of your investigation in this case, you were not essentially investigating homicide necessarily. You were investigating missing person, correct?
A suspicious missing person, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you began that investigation on August 8th, 2023, correct?
I got involved on August 8th, yes, ma'am.
And do you recall what time you got involved?
I can refer to my report, but I think it was 14:37 or 14:40, somewhere in there.
And 14:37, 14:40 equals approximately 2:37 p.m., correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And we heard a little bit about how you had a conversation with the district attorney's office about seizing the Hildabrand apartment, and that was on August 9th, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that sounds correct.
At
1500.
1500 hours?
Yes, ma'am, 3 p.m.
And do you recall who you spoke with at the district attorney's office at that time?
I believe it was Miss Dunlap.
Okay.
Dunlop, sorry.
And that was on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
So at 3 p.m. you had this conversation with Ms. Dunlop, and then approximately, and you made the decision to seize the apartment, and then at approximately 9:03 p.m. you applied for your search warrant on August 9th, 2023, correct?
That sounds about right. I don't remember the exact time, but I can look at my report if you need the exact time.
Would that refresh your recollection?
For the exact time, but it was about 9 o'clock p.m. or 2100. Do you want the exact time?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. It was 3 minutes after 9 o'clock. It was 21:03 hours that I submitted at 21:03 a fax search warrants to the affidavit to the magistrate's office. So 21:03 hours, 9:03 p.m.
So approximately 6 hours had gone by between your conversation with Ms. Dunlop and the time you applied for the warrant, correct?
I don't remember exactly when I talked to her, but it was pretty close to 3 p.m. or 1500. So about 6 hours, yes, ma'am. That sounds about right. From the decision to seize the apartment at 1500 to the time that I applied for the warrants or that I sent the warrants to the magistrate's office via fax was 6 hours, 3 minutes.
And at that time, Mrs. Hildabrand was still missing, correct?
Yes, ma'am, she was.
The crime scene team hadn't been in the apartment, correct?
That's correct.
You had no knowledge of whether Mrs. Hildabrand was still living?
I did not know for sure if she was still living.
You did not know the type of gunshot wound she had died from?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You did not know where she was found? You did not know at the time
Where she would be found?
where she'd be found?
No, I did not.
And in your warrant affidavit, or when you're applying for your search warrant, you have to identify specifically what crime you believe has occurred or believe probable cause to believe has occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you applied for the warrant at 21:03 or 9:03 p.m. on August 9th, 2023, you applied to search the Hildabrand apartment for evidence of murder, correct?
That is correct.
And that was again after you spoke with Ms. Dunlop.
Yes.
You then spoke with Mr. Hildabrand again on August 9th at 10:03 p.m., correct?
It's about 10 o'clock. I can refresh my memory on the exact time, but if you say 10:03, yes, ma'am.
Could it refresh your recollection to look at your report?
Sure. If you need the exact time, it sure will. Thank you. Search more information. On 8/9/2023, at about 22:03 hours, Zarrius called me on my cell phone. So yes, ma'am, at 10:03 p.m., 22:03 hours.
And we heard that phone call, that was State's Exhibit 349, correct?
If you say so, I don't know. I can't remember the exhibit number, but yes, that phone call that we listened to earlier was that phone call.
The phone call that occurred at 10:03 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
And we hear in the course of that conversation, you making statements to Mr. Hildabrand, calling him, for example, bro or brother, correct?
I did call him bro, yes.
And you told him you were writing reports in that conversation, correct?
Is that a question?
Did you tell him that you were writing reports?
Yes, ma'am.
In your in your vernacular, is a affidavit a report?
It's not an APD report, but I consider it a report because I'm trying to write down the facts as I know them or what was told to me.
Okay.
And I imagine at some point during that day, I was taking notes and working towards writing my final draft of my report. So
Okay.
I like to try to keep on top of it so I can get these exact times correct, so they come up at the right time in court.
And we hear you in the course of that conversation say things like, help me out, to Mr. Hildabrand.
Absolutely.
Mr. Hildabrand would always be the best person to ask, correct?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. And again, this was after you applied for your warrant alleging probable cause for murder, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so at that time, fair to say you believed Mr. Hildabrand to be a suspect in said murder that you had applied the search warrant for?
You're asking for my belief. 100% I believed he was a suspect in murder of his wife.
Before there was a body found?
Absolutely.
Before you knew the gunshot range?
Yes, I did. I had no idea what happened to his wife, but I suspected she was dead.
You had no idea?
By his hand.
And that was your suspicion?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That was my suspicion, 100%.
And that was something
I had no doubt in my mind that he killed her.
And you shared that with the government, correct?
I shared it with the government?
With Mrs. Dunlop?
I shared the probable cause, that facts, but you were asking about my opinion, I think.
Suspect. I asked if he was a suspect at that time.
Fine, you also asked about my opinion, if he was a suspect, and I answered that. But from the affidavit, so for the affidavit, I don't put anywhere in there that I believe 100% that Zarrius killed his wife, his new bride. Don't put that in there. I put the facts of the case as I understand them. And then I let a judge decide whether there's probable cause to search the residence and his phone records and her phone records. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
And you have sat through this whole trial, correct? Up to...
I think I was here, yes, ma'am. I think I was here for all of it, yes, ma'am, so far.
So you've heard all the testimony of all the witnesses, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You listened to opening statements.
Yes, I did.
And you've discussed the case with Ms. Dunlop since the trial started, fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you have the idea to bring out the dummy gun?
When did I have the idea of it? Oh, 2 or 3 days ago, probably. I mean, I've picked up that dummy gun numerous times myself. I discussed it with Ms. Dunlop probably 2 or 3 days ago. But years ago, 3 years ago almost, I picked up that same dummy gun that sits in my sergeant's office and tried to shoot myself in the head.
Okay. And that dummy gun is obviously not the same length as
No.
the firearm that is a real gun that is in the box in front of you, correct?
It's not the same length, it's just a bit longer and a bit lighter, so, but I don't like pointing real guns at my head, and I don't have a dummy gun of a SIG Sawyer pistol, so that's just the best I could come up with. But it's very close. I think everybody who looked at them, you can compare them, they're within a quarter inch of one another.
So again, it's not the same length, not the same weight, correct?
Yes, ma'am. The dummy gun is just about a quarter inch, if it even that, longer than the real SIG Sawyer.
And the weight differential is?
The weight, there is a difference in the weight. That's probably the biggest noticeable difference, other than it's an orange piece of plastic. The weight is a lot lighter, especially when you put on the headlight or the flashlight and the ammunition and the magazine. So there is a weight difference for sure. Yes, ma'am. And also I got a lock on there now and a box that people are picking up, so.
Do you know exactly what the weight difference is?
No, ma'am, I do not.
So you didn't weigh them?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay.
I didn't think it was necessary to weigh them.
Okay.
But that gun is a lot heavier and would be a lot harder to get in that position because of the weight.
And what was that position again? Can you show us?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be this position here is where the gun should be, but getting in that position there is very hard and painful to my wrist. At that one where my wrist starts to hurt, I'm actually just probably going to blow my ear off, and it's even harder from the left-hand side. But also, I demonstrated this. This is also an option, but I testified to my experience, my 28 years of experience of going to suicides, hundreds of them. I've never seen anything but a contact wound. So this, I mean, in my experience of 28 years as a police officer, it's never happened. And this gun is, like you pointed out, is a lot lighter and a lot easier to manage than that heavy gun with all the magazine, the flashlight, the bullets, et cetera, in it.
And how many accidents have you investigated?
Accidental shootings?
Yes.
Quite a few. I don't know the number any more than I know the number of suicides, but quite a few.
Okay.
Not as many accidents as suicides, but I have been involved in some, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you just, I believe you testified with Ms. Dunlop that your opinion was that the line of fire, essentially, the wound was up and to the left, correct?
I don't know that I ever said up. It almost looks like it, to me, by looking at the wound, it almost looks like it's, if I'm looking straight ahead with my head, it almost looks like it's a downward angle to me.
Okay.
Not a lot, but slightly. And to her left, to the shooter's right. Yes, so that direction, towards her left.
And that's just based on your training and experience, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You've testified to the word bluff in the course of your discussion with Ms. Dunlop. Ms. Dunlop would ask you if you were making a bluff when you were speaking with Mr. Hildabrand.
Oh, yes,
correct?
yes, ma'am, yeah.
And to be clear, when you ask someone an answer that you already know the answer to, do you feel that implies some element of untruthfulness to the person you're talking to?
On my part?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I suspected that there was no cameras out there. I wasn't sure, because it had been a while since I'd been to the Alpine Apartments to look for cameras, and also citizens love to put cameras up nowadays for look at their cars or whatever. So I wasn't totally convinced there wasn't evidence, but when I said that, I lied to your client.
So you lied.
Yes, ma'am.
And you lie a lot to people when you're discussing cases with them. Is that fair to say?
A lot might be a strong word. I don't think it's a lot.
You're trained to lie in the course of an investigation as a way to solicit what you think is important information, correct?
I'm also trained to tell the truth and tell them the facts, but if I need to lie to somebody to get them truth, to get past their blatant lies, in my opinion, then I do lie to them, yes, ma'am.
So, fair to say, in your opinion, are you a convincing liar?
Am I a convincing liar?
Do you believe yourself to be a convincing liar when you lie in the course of your employment?
Not always, no, ma'am.
Okay. And when you're bluffing, what you're really doing is you're telling a lie, correct?
I'm bluffing. Well, in this case, I don't know that it's a lie. It's just an unknown fact, because I didn't know. But I certainly told the truth that we're going to look for video, and I thought that would warrant some kind of response from him, because he's going to start thinking, oh, they're going to look at video, and they're going to see exactly what happened. They're going to see what I did on Sunday. They're going to see what I didn't do on Sunday. So it wasn't necessarily a lie, but because I wasn't sure. But I didn't have any hesitation. Even if I knew there was no cameras, I would have said the same thing.
You were lied.
Yes, ma'am.
Without hesitation.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's something you do based off your training and experience, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any further questions.
Maybe direct?
Detective, you were asked about confirmation bias. Whether you call it that or not, have you had training on being objective and fair?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Have you had training on not beginning an investigation with a preconceived notion?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And I think it was pretty evident in this case by the fact that the report was done Monday and I didn't arrest him until 3 days later.
Okay.
I wanted to give him every opportunity to help us out.
And I want to talk with you about that warrant affidavit. You were asked kind of about the time between making the decision to seize the apartment and applying for the warrant.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you writing reports during that time?
I was working on my report, and of course, I was writing the affidavit, which is a fairly long form, and then there's the warrants themselves that you have to, it's another form. There's just a number of forms, so I don't type well, so 6 hours is pretty generous as far as applying for 3 warrants.
Your warrant is including not every fact, but many of the facts that you have in your investigation.
Yes, ma'am. I try to be fair as I can. I even put facts in there often that would discredit what I think, but I add them in there so a fair and impartial judge can look at them and like, oh, this looks like there's probable cause to search that residence.
Okay, and you were applying for a warrant for the residence and for both of their phones?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, and it's not the DA's office that decides if you have probable cause, is it?
No, ma'am, not at all. It's a magistrate or a judge.
Okay, and you submitted that warrant to a judicial officer?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Who approved it?
Yes.
Okay. And based on the information that you had at the time, you knew that Saria Hildabrand had gone missing?
I did.
That her husband waited over 30 hours to report her?
That's correct.
That he was inconsistent about what time she left for work vis-a-vis the text message versus her phone being there?
That's correct.
that he had apparently sent a text message calling her into work?
That's correct.
Okay. And that he was the last one that was seen with her alive?
That's correct.
And that there was a gunshot that went off the night before, or the night shortly after she was seen alive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you relayed all that to the magistrate?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And you also had information that he had purchased new bedding?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. At the point you applied for the search warrant, did you know about the trash can from Lowe's yet?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Okay. But all the other things that I've outlaid, you put into your search warrant?
I did, absolutely.
Okay. And that the defendant had also lied about what he purchased at Fred Meyer's?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the amount of times he went to Fred Meyer.
Okay. And I just want to talk a little bit about this lying in an interaction with a suspect.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you attempting to get him to admit what had happened?
Absolutely, yes, I was.
Okay. And would him believing that there were cameras that were going to catch what had happened aid in that?
I thought at the time it would have, and it certainly has helped in the past because people go from, I don't know what happened to, this is what happened.
Okay. And did you actually see that in the course of your conversation?
Absolutely.
With
He
Mr.
told me,
Hildabrand?
he started with one story that I stayed at home all day, I vegetated, I sat on the couch, I did nothing. I watched my wife walk out of the apartment at 10 o'clock. I waited until 9 or 10 o'clock that night, and then I drove to Bread and Brew. And that's really all he told me. Then when I told him, well, what about the cameras we're going to look at? Oh, well, maybe I went out. I went out and bought ingredients for avocado salad. I went to the Brown Jug and bought a bottle of liquor and a 2-liter bottle of Coke. And I don't think he would have even told me that. I wouldn't have lied to him or bluff or whatever you want to call it. So, yes, ma'am, I was trying to get him to admit what I suspected happened.
Okay. And I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Thank you very
Detective.
much.
All right, thank you, Detective.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Your Honor, at this point, the state's prepared to rest.
All right, that means we need to take another break. Let's cut a break. There are things we need to discuss before we move forward at this point. Please don't discuss the case. We'll have you back here as soon as we're done with that. I'm sorry, you want them to stay put, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Please be seated. Counsel, you approach again, please. Right, let's bring the jury back.
I want to be clear, I don't know if I have a rebuttal case or not. I will be prepared, but without knowing who their witnesses are.
I'm not gonna overpromise. To the jury?
Right.
Right.
I don't know if I have a rebuttal because I don't know anything about what they're going to do yet.
I'm gonna let them know that you are putting on a case. Or do you not want me to say that?
I have witnesses lined up.
That's not an answer to my question.
That's fine, Judge.
Okay. Thank you. Please be seated, at least momentarily. I apologize for all the back and forth and up and down. At this point, the state has rested. Defense does plan to put on some witnesses tomorrow. We're not in a position to do that today. We're going to take the rest of the time today without you folks to work on some jury instructions, get some of those things done so we can move right along tomorrow. So we're going to excuse you for the day, ask you back here at 8:30 tomorrow, and we'll take up the case at that point. Please don't do any research. Please don't discuss the case. We'll have you folks back tomorrow. All right? Thank you.